Testing.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Virginia City Council Chambers. We have two meetings scheduled this morning. The first is a special council meeting to address 4 issues, and then immediately following the council meeting, we will have our committee of the whole meeting. So we'll call this meeting to order. Today's date is Tuesday, November 21st, 2023. The time is 9 a.m. A special council meeting consists of an agenda of 4 items, and item number 1 is to discuss the adoption of resolution for the Public Safety Center USDA loan. Those are the first 3 items in separate funding requests. And then the 4th is to apply for some funds from the IRRR. So the first item on the agenda is to adopt a loan resolution for the Public Safety Center. It's the USDA loan in the amount of $9 million. The second one is adopt the loan resolution for the Public Safety Center. Again, the USDA loan in the amount of $4,610,000. And item 3 of this agenda packet is the adopt a loan resolution for the Public Safety Center from the USDA loan in the amount of $8 million. So the total of $21,610,000. And I'm going to turn this over to Sherry. Can you explain how we're going to structure this and the purpose of this meeting is to adopt a resolution and move forward with the loan request through the USDA?
Correct. I believe that George Eilertson was here last week to explain the fact that we're going to have interim financing. And Britt can help me out here. I know that the USDA will not do just intermittent financing. They will take on the whole ball of wax, and we will eventually finance the whole $21 million through USDA on a low-interest 40-year loan. In the meantime, though, we need construction costs, and we also have $11 million out in state grants. So we need a gap funding here, and that's what these resolutions are, is accepting the USDA loan in these dollar amounts and working with excuse me, getting the gap funding.
And then we will be paying ourselves back once we receive the money from the bond, $11 million, and then, of course, the USD loan itself.
That is correct.
Okay, so this is just gap funding until the loan processing is taken care of and the Public Safety Center moves forward. But we need to do this prior to the USD providing the long-term loan and to acquire the $11 million in state bonding. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Questions from the council? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So when I add up all of the 1, 2, and 3 numbers, I get a total of $21,610,000. Sherry, is that, do we add in the $11 million grant on top of that figure to reach $32,610,000? Or are we going to have a continued gap with our costs being at $31 million currently with the public safety building?
No, we cannot go any more than what we've budgeted for, so that's 11 million will help with that 31. And then your final resolution is to apply for and accept funds from IRRB that will help with.
Right, so on those, so item 1, 2, and 3, those add up to the 21,600,000. Then are we adding in on top of that the additional 11 million that is coming from the state for the grant dollars?
Correct.
So we have a total fund being able to utilize $32,610,000 all in from all funding total for the public safety project. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. So do we take, Pam, would you want these taken individually, or can we take it as a group? Individually, okay. So before we call for a vote to adopt the resolution, does any councilor have any other questions with respect to this? Councilor Friedlieb.
Are these all fixed rate percentage of interest for each loan, or is it combined into one rate? Are there variability to those interest rates?
This is the USDA loan, it's going to be a fixed rate, and we already locked the interest rates in earlier. I believe it was in August, September. We got a pretty good rate at the time. I think there is a 1 year, we do have an option to call back if the interest rates go lower and refinance.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Friedlieb. Any other questions from the council? Any questions from staff? Any questions from the audience? Okay, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So then the bond payment, or it would be the, once it converts to the USDA loan payment, Sherry, are we thinking that that's going to be $1 million a year for that overall payment to the USDA annually?
Correct. In fact, I just went off of the, we're going to bond for the 2 years here for construction. And when it's all completed, then the USDA will take over all of the expenses. And we based it on what that bond is and what the current
Okay,
interest rate is.
okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Okay, any other questions, comments from staff or from the council? Okay, we'll take each one of these individually. Item number 1 is adopt a loan resolution of gap funding for the Public Safety Center USDA loan in the amount of $9 million.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Councilor Motley. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Beyondich.
The reason these are broken down into these 3 amounts, the $9 million is for,
They're all this, it's all the same project.
Okay.
The USDA, the requirements they have from the federal government requires them that they stay under a certain dollar amount for
Okay.
all their loans, so they had to break it into 3 to make that threshold on their
okay,
side.
thank you.
Thank you. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 2 is adopt a loan resolution for the Public Safety Center USD loan gap funding in the amount of $4,610,000. Move to approve by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there support? Is there support?
Support.
A support by Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is adopt a loan resolution, gap funding for the Public Safety Center USD loan in the amount of $8 million.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Councilor Paulson and supported by Councilor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And the last item on the special council meeting agenda for today is item number 4, to adopt the resolution to apply for and accept funds from the RRRB infrastructure program.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Motley. Is there support? By Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion?
Clarification?
Yeah, okay.
This is actually for the mall project. There is a December 6th board meeting, so they need the resolution today by 4:30. So I needed to put it on the special agenda to get it in today.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Yep. We're good on that. Counselor Freed, that was your question as well. Yours as well. Counselor Beyondich, thank you. Counselor Motley.
Do you think, Britt, there's a good chance that, what was the amount of money we're kind of helping to try to get that mall project rolling? Was it 600 or 1,000 or $1 million?
We're asking IRRR for 600,000.
Okay. You think, just being nosy, you think there's a solid chance we might?
We've been lobbying.
cool.
We'll keep lobbying, and I did talk to Jody Vest. I suspect that they'll probably want somebody from the city, so the mayor and I will probably go to the December 6th meeting, and Jody will probably go too, so that IRRR has any questions, we can all answer them.
Cool, thank you.
And
Thank
just
you.
back to our public safety project too, they don't usually like to give out grants for projects that are not fully, that we haven't awarded the bids on yet. And so because we haven't awarded the bids, they said to apply for their next meeting, which would be in February. If we're ready at that time, if not, it'll be May, and we'll just keep trying, so.
Okay, thank you. It has been moved and supported. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying, Counselor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you. No other items to come before the special council meeting today. There's nothing on the agenda for other items of concern, so we'll stand, this council meeting is stand adjourned. Our next regularly scheduled council meeting is Tuesday, December 28th at 5:30 p.m. here in the council chambers. This special meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the committee of the whole meeting. We will call the committee of the whole meeting to order. It's at 9:10 a.m. Today's date is Tuesday, November 21st, 2023. We have a full agenda today and some appearances moving forward. So we'll turn the agenda over to our city administrator, Britt C. Bennis. Britt?
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is Matt Reed from SCH, our engineer of record. The first item is a request for approval of additional compensation for construction administration for the 2023 road improvement project.
Good morning, Matt. Matt Reed from SCH, our engineer of record. Matt, good morning.
Good morning. You might recall, I don't know, several weeks ago, we were here talking about some of the changes in what ended up being the scope. Well, as we got going on the project and they got the blacktop removed, there was some not great material beneath, so they had to do some additional work. Long story short, we ended up spending some additional time that we weren't anticipating as well, and that's what I'm requesting compensation for. In my request, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Council?
I'll move the approval.
Councilor Freely moves to approve. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
And the second item, Matt, is the update on the local road improvement program grant application for a city street project and approve the resolution to apply.
So I think it was in 2020 or 2021, we applied for this. If you're even taking a step farther back, we applied and had $1 million awarded for the Midway Drive improvements.
Right.
So we followed up a couple of years later and applied for this program for the project that's on 14th Avenue, 20th Street, Southern Drive. That was part of our 2023 reconstruction project. And we were not awarded originally, so we're going to try again. And the timing worked out great. I think this is still a very, very good candidate. There's a max of 1.5 million, I believe, this time around for this grant, whereas last time I think it was 1.2. So we'd like to apply for it again, and I think that would, I personally feel that this project would compete well. So my opinion probably doesn't matter much, but I think it would. So I can answer any questions you might have related to that. The application is due December, I think it's December 4th. It's coming up in the next couple of weeks, but assuming the council, this group passes the resolution and the council next week, I'll get that thing submitted next week sometime.
Thank you, Matt.
I'll move for approval.
Moved by Counselor Freely for
Opinion certainly
approval.
does matter. Your opinion certainly does matter.
Maybe to you guys, and I appreciate that. Beyond that, who knows? But
Yeah, thank you, Counselor Freely, for that. I concur. We all concur, I think. It's been moved by Counselor Freely. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Matt.
happy Thanksgiving.
You do the same. Thank you.
Second item on the agenda is John McNamara from Wold Architects and Pat Wirtz from Kraus Anderson. We also have Carly here from Kraus Anderson regarding design and value engineering changes to the Public Safety Center.
Once again, good morning, Mr. McNamara. Thank you for making the trip up again.
Yes, Mayor and Council, it's good to see you. It's been a little while since I was up here, and as most of you are aware, we didn't have great news on bid day, and we've been working hard with Kraus Anderson, with the chiefs, and with the committee to come up with some ideas on how we can get the project on budget. And so the presentation that I have for you today is going to focus architecturally on what we're going to be proposing to change for what we're going to change on the building, because in order to hit our target of the $31.5 million, we're going to need to reduce some square footage. There's a fairly extensive list that's been shared related to some minor nuances that Pat will talk about as far as some materials and some design changes that you won't see on the building. But in order to hit our target, like I said, we do need to reduce square footage. And so we have been talking to the committee, talking to the chiefs on what we could change in the building to get some square footage out without compromising the goals of the project. And so this is just where we are today. We haven't actually finalized the design on it because, one, we wanted to get some feedback, and two, once we kind of break loose with doing this work, we want to move pretty quickly. So, once we get the concept figured out, we'll come back with a final presentation before we make any final changes. So as we look at the overall plan, one of the things you'll note is we aren't touching the space in the apparatus area. We had some good conversations with the fire chief related to what we needed to have in this building. We had initially thought we could potentially look to reduce one of the apparatus bays on there, but through those conversations, what we felt would be more important would be to focus on some of the office space that would be nice to have, but we can do without and maintain the apparatus bays the way that we have it. And so what we're going to do is look to reduce some square footage at the command bay area. We're going to eliminate the command bays on the building. We are going to remove a couple of offices and repurpose some space in that area to share space in that area a little bit better. One of the big architectural changes on the building that will show at some point in the future is we are going to reduce the size of the entry on the building. The large vertical element that we had on the building will get removed. We feel we have enough space in the lobby area that we can internalize the vestibule in the lobby versus having it on the outside of the building. We may have some building-supported canopy just for weather protection, but it's going to be much simpler than what we had proposed in the past. And so those are the only changes that you'll see on the main level. One of the things that we are going to do when we talk to the police department about is, you'll notice that we've noted on their combined DT and the training space. And so we're going to change the design a little bit of that first floor training or conferencing space and a training room to have that also work as their defensive tactics room, which allows us to reduce square footage on the upper level. So we are going to combine those two features together. Much of the changes that you'll notice will be up on the upper level. And so this is the plan as we have it today. Where we are going to focus on is, because of the reductions in the fire office area, we need to take an equal amount of square footage out of the upper area. And in conversations with fire chief, we are going to reduce 2 of the dorm rooms up there in order to take that square footage out of the building. Because we're eliminating that entry area, we can eliminate some square footage on the front of the building. But the big change will be in the police administration area. And so we are proposing right now to remove roughly 2,000 square feet of space on the north side and push the administration space into where we had the defensive tactics area and eliminate the upper level break room for the police department. We have a smaller break area on the first floor that we had on there for the patrol area. So we'll keep that space on that level, maybe expand it a little bit. But the thought on the upper level is we're still going to maintain that stair, so that's close by to where that space is on the first floor, and they have access to the fire kitchen on the upper level. So again, space nice to have, but again, with where we're at with the budget, we really needed to target square footage in the building to get a fairly sizable reduction in square footage in order to meet the needs of the facility, but yet allow the operations to continue the way we had originally planned it. One of the other big changes that I did want to highlight is that if you recall from the design, we had almost a 3-story element at the entry area, and that upper third level was an enclosed penthouse for mechanical equipment. In our conversations with Kraus Anderson and the mechanical contractor, they felt that there was some value in eliminating the penthouse, not only from the cost of it, but also the roof-mounted mechanical equipment. We can save some money on the mechanical cost in that area as well. So we get a kind of a dual savings in that area. And so that vertical element won't be there anymore, but we will have some, the entry areas will still be a, 1.5-story, 2-story space. We did at one point in time talk a little bit about could we push some square footage into that 2-story space, but we would actually have to build a floor in there, which would add cost versus just leaving it the way that we have it currently designed. And it still leaves us, a civic presence at the front of the building that we think is important in the design solution. So I think those changes are fairly easily accomplished on the drawings without, a lot of significant other design changes to the building. Those changes, along with the other suggested changes that we have vetted out with the low bid contractors, will net us an approximate $4 million in overall project savings, which gets us back to the budget that we were anticipating. I'll have Pat go through it in more detail, but I did want to share, so for the existing building itself, this is the image that we've presented in the past. So what you would expect is that front vertical element, like I had mentioned, will go away. We will still have entry doors, signage at that location, some vertical glass, but it'll be much more subdued in that location. You can see off to the side there, those command garages would go away on here. But one of the things that we think is important is to maintain the site prep the way that we had it originally designed. So as a city, you could make a decision either to expand and add those command garages in the future, and then the site drainage structure is designed for those future additions should you choose to do that. We did talk a little bit about reducing landscaping and some of those things on the site. There was some monumentation and some park areas on the site that we're going to leave for the future as well. But those areas will be available and ready on the site should somebody decide in the future that they would like to do those projects. But our main focus is to get the project to where we want it to be, but still allow for some future changes if we need to do that. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on the design changes. Otherwise, I'll have Pat walk you through the revised budget.
I have a couple of questions, and then we'll move to the council, if I may. We'll start with Councilor Bionis and move around the room. I have 3 questions. First, for the fire department, the 2 dorm rooms eliminations, is that going to be an issue with respect to staffing? Thank you. The other is I'm concerned about, there is nothing in the design, and I didn't want to bring this up because I think that, other alternatives are available. But I just wanted to ask this question of the police department. I see Assistant Chief Nichols in the room. So, during the course of an investigation, sometimes you have interview rooms, and sometimes arrest has to be made, and transport isn't readily available to move somebody from, from the interrogation room to a holding facility. Is there any issue with respect to having ability to temporarily hold a individual that's under arrest prior to transport? Is that an issue for you, Chief?
We are in no way, shape, or form allowed to even temporarily.
Thank you very much. I thought that was the case, but I wanted to ask that question. And then my last question is there space, again, for the police department? I was in Hibbing last night to qualify. Thank you, Chief, for giving me the opportunity to qualify for my federal permit, and had the opportunity to observe your defensive tactics training at the Hibbing Community College in that defensive tactics room. And so when Mr. McNamara talked about defensive tactics, and is there going to be a room there for use of defensive tactics, or is that going to be eliminated?
We always say semper gum. What we have determined is the training room on the main level, multi-purpose training, not only having actual lectures, but then also being able to have our there, and then we're also going to have our TI training simulator.
Okay, thank you. Those answers my questions. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. McNamara. Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. When you talk about these changes, we've let the bids out for the previous. Do we have to rebid this for a new design?
As of right now, no, we can elect to. So right now with the parent low bidders, their bids were due for 60 days, which that 60 days is come and gone. However, you can still keep, because you follow the process for bidding, work with those low bidders. If the design changes become very significant, like if the whole thing got redone, then yes, it would be in the best interest to redesign, or rebid it. As of now, no.
So they've been included in part of these conversations with the changes?
Yes.
Okay, and then my next question is, I guess for Sherry, on the contingency fund, because we've already dipped into that contingency fund for that last change order that I guess didn't involve either one of you. Is that correct? So where is that contingency money for the overall project? And how much is in there, and how are we notified on how that is being used?
So when for that value for that change to go back is when Britt and I had kind of discussed what bucket money to take that out of. We didn't touch the contingency fund. We essentially took that out of the FF&E budget. So it might have reduced that, but we can look for savings on there to help offset those costs.
Okay, do we know what the amount is in that contingency fund for this project?
As of right now, we're carrying $450,000. But as the things get done, then if all these design changes come back as we look through to improvements, then we'll just, any extra bucket of money, we'll move that contingency fund so you have a bigger bucket of it.
Okay.
And I think, like I mentioned probably a couple months ago, the biggest risk is going to be the site of the unknowns of that. As much exploratory work we've done, there will be things that come up. But once we get through it, it's a brand new building. So there unless you guys do major scope changes or things like that, you should be relatively safe. But the biggest risk is going to be the site. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Beyondich. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So who were the contractors that you spoke with regarding the 60-day bid holds? And then just with the reduction in the footprint overall, I guess I'd like to know who you guys spoke with.
Well, so on bid day, I don't have a list of all the little bidders, so what I know off of concrete, the little bidder for 3A, which is all of your footings and foundations and slabs, that was T&T Construction Group for 3A. Masonry was Bedrock Flint, which isn't a very large number, but there's masonry walls, kind of the first level. Structural steel was Ben's Structural Steel Fabrication.
That again?
Ben's Structural Steel. That's like your ship's ladders and all your stairwell cases, miscellaneous metals, and those types of things. The erection portion was Ratatich out of Hibbing. 6A for carpentry, which is like your wood blocking door installs. That's T&T Construction Group out of Grand Rapids. Drywall was Custom Drywall. They're a good firm. Glass was Anderson Glass Company.
Anderson?
Yep. So for Lee's ceramic tile, for the ceramic tile portion, you really test my memory here. So the MCI was for the soft resilient flooring and carpet. A company called CMC out of Wisconsin for the paint. Division 10 Accessories, I do not remember that one off the top of my head.
So you spoke to these contractors during the bid day process. How about after?
Oh, yes. Okay, let's back up. These are all the parent low bidders on bid day.
Yep.
Yeah, so we sent it out to a pool. So we received roughly 120, 130 bids on bid day or whatever it was. Yep. So then all the low bidders on bid day, we went through with all that and then offered suggestions. And like I told them, the recommendation is to keep your bids as long as you're giving fair credits back. Now, the council could make a decision based off the redesign to rebid the entire thing and to go back for the award process. Now, the one downfall with that is if we get within budget with these changes, is it delays the process of awarding all the contracts and getting all the submittals and shop drawings going. So right now, kind of the timeline and schedule would be getting all the bids. If you guys approve these changes from Wold, they would have all this document changes to us sometime in February. We will then send that out to the parent low bidder contractors, subcontractors, get all the revised numbers, hopefully comes within or will come within our budget to go back, and then we'll come to the council with all the recommendations. Then we'll finalize our GMP, which is our guaranteed maximum price, then issue out all the subcontracts, and so then get going on shops and submittals. So that's kind of how that process and the timeline, then we would hit the ground running in May. If you elect to rebid everything out, it's roughly about probably a 6-week process. But when you advertise everything, open the bids, go through all the bids, and then bring recommendations. So we lose roughly a month or so, a month to 6 weeks on the procurement process.
So I'm trying to, I guess, understand if there would be any cost savings to doing that very thing. And I had talked with someone from CTC, someone from Permar, and also some electrical, that when the footprint scales down or it changes, painting is different, wiring is different, CTC's fiber optics is different. So the bids that we got in are maybe not going to be accurate. So do they adjust the bids down, or are we stuck at the top of that bid? I think I need to be a little bit more reassured, because at this point I would rather go out for a rebid.
Well,
Make sure they're bidding within the scope of the new scope of the project.
So let's explain it kind of this way. So of the square foot reduction, we'll say it was a 58,000 square foot building back in August. So now the new square foot is going to be 54,000 square feet. So of that 4,000 square feet, different, so electrical, for example. So if you take out 4,000 square feet, all the electrical conduit in the walls, all the light fixtures, all that gets reduced. So we know all those changes to go back. So we'll just say I'm not a big square foot number guy, but for ease of this conversation, we'll say that space costs $30 a square foot for electrical. So it's going to be around that same savings. What you have to be careful with that, though, is the cost of switch gear, the large scale equipment is kind of factored in that. So it's not a true savings. So it's all the components, all the wiring that goes into it. So as it gets reduced, and when the mechanical electrical side of things, we work with the Wold's mechanical electrical engineers just to make sure that they're giving fair credits back, because we know what it costs.
Sure.
So
I guess, do you feel that there would be a cost savings benefit if we went out for a rebid, or is it redundant, and would it cost even more for additional labor on Kraus Anderson's behalf, Wold's behalf, everyone, staff time?
There is that as well, but the biggest thing is in the past, we found when projects come like this, because this isn't the first project to be over budget, I hate to say it, but in the past, when you go out for rebid on that, the numbers have oftentimes come back higher than before.
Right.
Versus working with because all the people know where the numbers are at. There could be different changes in the market. There is material increases that are going to happen in cost escalation, because a lot of union raises go into effect in May, and that's something you need to be cognizant of well. Like, for example, all the underground utilities, there's going to be a large increase come December 1st, but we're reflecting some of these costs in our number we're giving you, because that's going to be potentially $40,000 or $50,000 in pipe increases. Same thing with structural steel studs. The list kind of goes down, but if you work with those people, they can negotiate what if they know, they can oftentimes go to their suppliers right away and say this project is going to be going. They can some vendors hold their prices, some don't. So
I think that helps me. I really appreciate that, because I was worried. I was concerned that we were stuck with that number with the old, I guess, footprint. Now we have a new footprint, and so you already have the square foot totals, and you know how to allocate the reductions accordingly.
Yep.
Okay, so you feel confident?
Yeah, and a lot of these numbers to go through, we didn't just do square foot numbers. Most of these numbers, not all of them, most of them are derived from actual numbers from the subcontractors.
Okay.
So they already are reflecting those savings in there to go back, so they're true numbers.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Paulson. Councilor Motley?
If we don't go out for rebidding, is this building still on target to be open in the fall of 2024?
The fall?
Yeah.
No.
No?
So it's roughly probably a 14-month schedule, so it'd be the summer of 25. Because we once break ground in theory, the building until May of '24.
Okay.
So it would be,
Spring
I
of
wish we could build it in 6 months, but I'd be lying to you if I told you we
Okay,
could.
spring of 25.
You could put a couple trailer houses there maybe if you want it done by then.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, any other questions from the council? Any more questions from staff?
Kind of got through off what I was going to talk about, so we got caught into that. Do you want to go through some of the value engineering items in the logs? So of this list in your packet, we front and back, there's roughly 100 items on here. We're not going to go through every single item unless you want to be here till 6 tonight. But I'll kind of touch on some of the big ones. Good question.
Well, we sat through that and
We did.
individually
Okay.
agreed to those already. So
Okay, so we don't need to go through it.
I don't, not individually necessarily, unless anybody else wants to, but we sat in on the process.
Okay.
And agreed to each of those that you're referring to.
So then if we go to the overall project budget sheet, because there's one change on there from the last time that, remember Britt and I kind of, when it was, we kind of forgot about it, and then when, was it Mike Jarek? Yeah, he brought up the sales tax savings. So at the end of the project, whatever the sales tax is, the state of Minnesota reimbursed the city of Virginia on that. So that value rate.
For material costs.
For material costs, yes, correct, for tax exempt. So in the budget sheet, we're reflecting roughly a $500,000 reimbursement from the state. Now, that's a probably a little low number, but I wanted to be safe. I don't want to dip below that. So it realistically could be from $600,000 to $850,000. It all kind of depends where the final cost comes in. But I figured $500,000 was a good, safe, median range number to go back. So that's the biggest difference on that.
Well, very good, thank you very much. Okay, anybody else have any more questions about this? Moving forward, Councilor Freely?
That number you just reflected, the reduction in the materials necessary from the bids that we've already received would be even more of a savings, or
No, so.
you're taking that into consideration?
Yes, so the sales tax money on the original bid was around $850,000. So it depends where the final material cost comes in. I used $500,000 kind of a threshold. So that number could tick up. It's not obviously going to be $850,000. It's probably going to be in that $600,000 range or in that ballpark. But we won't know that final number till we get all the final numbers in.
Sure, by reducing the footprint of the building, you're reducing material costs, therefore the sales tax that we receive is going to be less.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yep.
very good, thank you. Councilor Beyondich?
Just one quick question. So moving forward on this project, the city we have not hired anybody like we did previously. This is all now under Wold and Kraus Anderson, correct?
We hired Kraus Anderson as our construction manager at risk. The people that they were talking to are their subcontractors.
Yes.
Right, but I'm talking about the previous change order.
That was us. Yep, that's phase one of this project, so that was.
So there is no more of that the city has to be aware of and be on top of for missing things or?
Like, unless you know of anything, the last two houses, Pat, that are standing, is anything we need to?
No, that hasn't brought up to me yet. So I think we're all good and kosher on that now.
Okay, so no more change orders on anything like that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Beyondich. Okay, thank you, Mr. Wirtz. Mr. McNamara?
So with that, again, thank you for your time on this. So we appreciate everybody's feedback on it. As I mentioned, and as Pat kind of alluded to, we will need a little bit of time to kind of formalize these changes. I will work with Britt to put a final presentation together for council after the first of the year, probably towards the end of January, before we finalize the proposal requests to reduce the cost so that everybody can see what the revised plan solution is. I've committed to both chiefs that we're going to meet with them once we get the final plans adjusted to make sure that everybody is satisfied with that. And if we need to get the subcommittee together again to review that, we will certainly do that. So again, thank you for your patience and your support, and we look forward to pushing this forward.
Thank you, Mr. McNamara. Before you leave, anybody have any questions or comments? See none? Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr.
Have a great
McNamara.
holiday, everybody.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Wirtz.
you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. Let's go to the next item, please.
Next item on the agenda is a presentation or appearance by Jerry Williams discussing fence requirements.
Okay, Mr. Williams, you're in the audience. You want to please come forward and turn the light on to green. And please state your formal name for the record and welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting.
My name is Gerald Williams. I live down on 10th Street South. I was asked by Wanda Hamlin to put a fence in on the corner of 8th Street South and 6th Avenue. I pulled the fence, the existing fence out prior to probably 4 months ago. I started drilling holes to put new posts in the ground. I had a survey done, or a utility search, because there's a gas line there. I didn't want to hit it. I was under the impression in a conversation that it's an existing fence, did not need a permit. I got shut down by Christina Nicola, and I owe her an apology. I went off on her the day she showed up, and I'm sorry. But when I'm told I can do it without a permit, and I get shut down, I lose my cookies, and I lost my cookies. Now, Mrs. Hamlin has to have supposedly now a survey. There was multiple complaints supposedly levied against this thing on the corner. I put 8-foot posts in the ground. They are being cut down to 3 feet. I understand you cannot obstruct the corner on that lot. But like I said, when I'm told that I can do it without a permit to replace an existing fence, and all of a sudden the rules change, somebody's got to get their act together in this city, because I get multiple answers from different people. I just talked to another fellow, and I'm going to add this one in. Mr. Perringer owns 50 properties in this town. We talked about the requirement coming up for these guys to register. He's not getting a straight answer from anybody. He said, it's unbelievable. He said he's going to sell his properties. He owns 50 properties in this town. Something's got to be done. A survey on a city lot, these corners, these properties are registered. They know where the property lines are. So why do we have to have a permit to survey these things? I don't understand all this. What the hell? We're taxing the heck out of everything here. People are being taxed to death. People are leaving Virginia. Houses are going up for sale. Nobody wants to live here. It's something we better think about. We got all kinds of money we're spending. We're spending money like water we don't have. I can't do that in my budget. When I don't get paid and I don't have money coming in from people waiting to get paid from jobs, I go nowhere. We better reconsider what we're doing in this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda, please.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a request to approve resolution to apply for and accept funds from the IRRR Minefield Reclamation Program, and this was for our continued research on the Northern Heights project on the north side of town.
I'll move to approve.
Councilor Paulson moves item number 4 under Building and Grounds to approve the resolution to apply for and accept funds from the IRRR Minefield Reclamation Program. Is there support by Councilor Beyondich? Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 5 was removed to the next agenda. Item number 6 was moved to the agenda for the meeting before. Item number 6 is discuss the library clerk technology position as per library commission request at the last meeting.
And this came from a previous council meeting by Councilor Johnson, who made a formal motion to bring this back up for discussion at the Committee of the Whole meeting. So here we are today to once again discuss the library clerk technology position per the library commission request. And so this is still a part of our ongoing budget discussions. And we are looking at all positions within the city. We have made a decision one way or the other. We will be making a decision soon on the final levy. Hopefully we'll almost have the numbers ready to move forward. And there's been several positions within the 2024 proposed budget that have been held in abeyance. that aren't being filled until we determine where our 2024 budget is going to be. And once we set the levy, which we have to set by December the 12th, we'll have the information, what we need, and be comfortable with the levy that we want to set. And based upon that, if there's funding available for some of these other things that we're holding in abeyance, we'll certainly seriously consider that. So this is an item on the personnel for discussion purposes, not for us to make a decision one way or the other, because we're still in the budget process. So I leave that for any other conversation, questions, or comments by the council. Councilor Freely.
Just a quick clarification. So this is a position that is not currently existing.
The position that's not filled.
Hang on. It is an existing position.
Well, so in other words, I guess recalling back, that we changed the terminology of this position, correct?
Correct.
So we maintained the position, just changed the terminology so that the job description would be revised to fit it more appropriately for the needs that are becoming apparent at the library. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other discussion from the council with respect to this library position? I know we're still in budget discussions moving forward, and we'll make the final decision on all these positions as we determine the setting of the preliminary levy. And if additional personnel adjustments need to be made up or down, we'll certainly do that. Councilor Motley.
Sure, I have a question just from what you sent me earlier, just so the public's aware. What is the proposed budget for the library in 2024, please?
We have not set that.
Okay. Rough draft. Would it be appropriate to say what you sent me this morning, just kind of what I asked?
Yeah, I gave you 2 scenarios.
Okay. Do you want to, just for the public, this is your...
I don't have it in front of me.
Okay. So for the library proposed budget for 2024 with 11 employees for the city's taxpayers' knowledge, it's $1,161,942. So, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And like we are discussing every single department, determining what the costs are associated with that for personnel and capital equipment and all those things. And each individual department has been asked by our staff, and we've taken a look at those as well, have made significant cuts. Every department has made significant cuts to try to get the levy down as much as they can. Some with respect to capital equipment purchases, some with respect to personnel, some with respect to overtime and services that, ancillary services that are provided. And so every department has contributed, to make some kind of reduction so we can reduce the levy from the 21% that was set by October the 31st. And so we'll continue to work on that budget and glean it down and as far as we can get. There are maybe some additional measures that can be taken moving forward. We'll be discussing those measures. Those measures could include, some issues that affect personnel, and so we're trying to make an effort not to do that. If we can reduce the budgets within the structures that were proposed by our city staff and by each department head, and take a look at holding a line on some of the expenditures that we have until we can determine where we at in the final budget process. So by December 12th, we'll know that. And I think within the next week or so, we'll have some additional information finalized by our finance director and our city administrator. And we hope to have a budget meeting set for, what would you anticipate, Britt or Sherry, at the next budget meeting? When will you be ready?
Yeah, we're hoping on the 28th.
28th of November. All right, thank you.
We have negotiations on the 28th. Next week. We will hope next week we'll get.
Well, hopefully sometime next week. Okay, thank you. And we'll make sure the general public is aware when that budget meeting is going to be, so you'll be able to come in. It'll be a public meeting, obviously. So thank you for that. Any other questions, comments from the council? Councilor Freely.
Just a quick personal comment. I mean, I know that, these concerns with the budget are exceedingly valid and concerning. But from a personal standpoint, having attended quite a few different programs that are being availed to the community through the public library, I would have to say as a grandfather and a parent, that the programs that are being provided through the library are invaluable and incomparable to the costs that we're incurring for the personnel that put those on. So it's going to be a tough decision. I understand that. We have to bring our budget within parameters that are acceptable, but you just, in my opinion, you can't compare what we're paying for in terms of personnel for what we're getting from the personnel that are putting on the types of programs that are available to the families in this community. They're absolutely exceptional.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Freely. But that could be said for all our core services as well, that are being provided what we need to do. So we're all trying to make sacrifices here. If we don't have to make the sacrifice, we're trying to minimize every sacrifice that's being made. But whether it's programs, whether it's public works, whether it's police and fire, the services that are provided are necessary to provide the services that the public needs and expects. But it's all about what can we afford, what we can't afford, what can we provide, what we can't afford, what the citizens want, what they can live with or live without. And if programming, for example, at the library has to be cut for a certain period of time, it's unfortunate, very unfortunate. But we have to take a look at it. We have to be a fiduciary responsibility and weigh the services that are provided with the costs associated with that, and then how it affects the services that are provided to the public. So thank you for that, Councilor Freely. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Britt, could you tell me, or Sherry, could you guys tell me the date that we had when the position for the library clerk opened up? We had a person transfer here to the planning department that is now at the front desk there. I believe that transfer in was in June. Could we get a date of when the position began here at the City Hall?
Yes, we can get that for you.
Was it sometime in June?
I would have to ask them, take a guess, because unfortunately.
It was approximately
Jody
June. It was
Grabinowski, our library director. Jody?
I can tell you it was mid-June when the person transferred out. And that position was reworked. And when this position was put on hold was after the job had closed and we had all of our applicants and we had done the first review, which was in September. So,
Okay, thank you.
does that help?
June.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think it was, here, I can probably tell you, I can probably even tell you the
I found the letter, Jody. It's June 19th.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And so my point is, after Councilor Friedlieb was discussing about programming, programming continued throughout the entire summer months with, I would say, no lack of programming or no pulling back of any programming whatsoever without that staff member being at the library since June 19th. So the library has been operating with all programs available to the public, to the citizens of Virginia and public, since the position was vacated on the 19th, with no missing programming at the Virginia Public Library. And I would just like to state that for the record. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Paulson. Any other questions or comments from the council? From the council at this point? One moment, Jerry. Thank you. I know you're anxious. One moment, please. Anything else from the council? Okay, thank you. Jody?
And I'm going to clarify that, yes. And you have to remember that we do our programming 6 months out. The staff did not feel that they could stop any of the programming because it was already on our calendar. We already did the promotion, and they worked their tails off. I can guarantee you, if we don't get this position filled, because you also have to remember, we did cut one of our positions by 10 hours. So when we did the budget discussion early on, one of my 40-hour clerks went to 10 to help with the budget cut, and then we reduced the salary of the other position. The staff felt that we could maintain that for a short time, and we did. We will not be able to maintain it in 24 with our current staffing levels, so we will prioritize our staffing, as Councilor Friedlieb pointed out. Some of the program is definitely not going to continue just because programming takes a lot of work, but also we have to man 2 desks with the hours. And in an ideal world, if nobody took vacation and nobody got sick, we'd probably be okay. But I don't know about any of you in your workplaces, but it is that time of year where littles are bringing everything to everyone. So, but yes, I am so proud of my staff for maintaining the programming that we set forth. So let's see, summer, we decided in February of 2023 what we were going to do for summer. They maintained that, and I can tell you right now, everybody's just like, okay, we're almost to the end of the year. We only have a few more programs because it does decrease. But they're all tired. And so we're looking at what we will prioritize, what our hours will be, and how we will meet those needs with less staff. So just so you know, the staff just went above and beyond. And did our Friends volunteers also anything that they could volunteer with out of some of our larger programs? If you were at any of those, you saw some of our friends there, which is great. But we can't, you know, they can only do certain things. So just so you know that the staff went above and beyond, and we didn't feel we knew we should probably cut some stuff, but we had already signed contracts, put out the PR, because we'll have to sign contracts here in the next 2 months for summer reading. And just so you know that's why we keep talking about this. So we need to know where we're at, because it costs a lot also to get out of a contract. And so as any of you probably already know. But just so you know that the staff made it happen. It won't be the same next year if we don't have all of our staff. So we will definitely downsize.
Okay, thank you, Jody. Anything else?
Mayor, I'd like to just make a comment. Jody.
Yes, Sherry?
We'd never reduced your staff 10 hours due to the budget. Nope, so you need to correct that. That is a medical reason.
And we did talk about doing that. We did talk about doing that permanently with the budget
But we
thing,
didn't.
but we haven't done it yet. So that was one of the offers that was on the table. Sorry, that was an offer for 24, not for this year.
We did not do that.
We have not done that at this time.
And so this discussion we're having now is for the budget meeting. Discuss this budget. We brought this back, we already discussed it at the budget. Now it's brought up on a motion at the committee of the whole meeting to discuss it again. This is a budget decision. We'll make the decision at that period of time. There's many other departments that are, you know, strong advocates for what the services they're providing as well. We have to be prudent in our fiscal responsibilities and balance that out, and we will do that. And I understand the frustration of the library commission, the volunteers of the library director, and the staff, but that bodes well for the other departments as well. So let's figure it out at our next budget meeting. So thank you. Next item, please.
The next item is a request for replacement of a parking monitor vehicle and to approve the resolution to purchase a 2021 Nissan Rogue all-wheel drive for that position.
And I think for a little history, we have the assistant chief here, but the parking monitor position, they had a new vehicle, and they were driving around a vehicle. They said, "Oh, that's a really nice vehicle you're driving." Well, guess what? That was a forfeited vehicle by the department, police department. They forfeited this vehicle. They didn't have a parking monitor vehicle to drive, so this was one of those forfeited vehicles. An accident occurred. The vehicle is totaled out. The parking monitor was injured as a result of this, and so now we need to find another vehicle for the parking monitor. And we're not buying a brand-new vehicle here. The search this is a 2021 small compact vehicle. So that's what's being requested. So I guess the next question is going to be from all of us is, how are we going to pay for this vehicle? Sherry.
Thank you. I already talked to the chief, Mattson and Britt. We do have $68,000 left in our contingency fund. That's with all the potential obligations already tacked to it. So we hopefully are estimate is about $10,000 that we will get from the insurance towards that vehicle. And we're looking at something around $20,000. So you're talking maybe a difference of 10, 15 out of the contingency fund, which is doable.
And I think I did get a comment from somebody, a citizen says, well, why can't they use a bicycle? Why they use an electric bicycle? Why can't they walk around town? Well, it's 62 miles of road for somebody to walk around. It's not just a downtown parking monitor. They do all the parking all over the city of Virginia. They've always had a vehicle. They should have a decent vehicle to drive. The one before the forfeited vehicle was an all beat up, rusted out vehicle, which is an embarrassment to the city. They need something decent to drive. We're looking at a used vehicle, so I look at the condition and no sign on that vehicle, so it's going to be a little more professional moving forward. I'm advocating to buy something for the parking monitor, so looking for the council opinion and action moving forward, so thank you. Okay, well, I tell you, there's no questions or comments about that, so I'll step down and I'll make a motion to for Sherry and Britt and the police department to work to find the funding and upon able to provide that funding, approve the purchase of this 2021 Nissan Rogue for the use of the parking monitor position for the police department. Looking for support.
All support, given that we will be getting reimbursed from an insurance that'll bring down the costs, and we do have money that's set aside to be able to cover the additional costs that we'll incur.
Okay, moved by Councilor Freely, supported by Councilor Freely, moved by Mayor Cuffey. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Beyondich.
Could you tell me what the parking monitor, what the revenue is that they bring in? Would that offset any of these costs above and beyond the wage of that person?
In the last 3 years, we haven't had one for the full year, so it's hard to gauge that. But it's estimated to be about enough to cover their wage completely. The great thing about a vehicle like this is it is not marked, so then it also gets used for travel requests. We want our staff to start using our city vehicles and not their personal vehicles. So having a nicer vehicle like this that's a four-door that we can put people in would allow us to do that as well.
Councilor Beyondich.
That's the only vehicle request. The other one is for the cab,
And the chief had looked at 4 different vehicles, and this was the only one that was, didn't need any work on it.
So when staff goes on to their trainings, they would be able to take this vehicle and use it, not a personal vehicle.
Correct.
And you could put, is it a four passenger?
It's a 4-door.
4 people could ride together. Thank you.
That was, when they got the forfeited vehicle, that was the intent of that forfeited vehicle, was to be their training vehicle to take to trainings. And then it's got damaged.
Thank you, Councilor Beyondich. Further discussion, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So is this on the city's insurance or on I don't know anything about the accident, so.
I did email you guys about the accident. It is on the city's insurance the day that it happened, but it was a couple weeks last week. Yes, and the adjuster just got the information needed today. He needed it's newer to us within the last few months, so we just got the registration to him today. So he guessed between $10,000 and $12,000 was going to be the payment on it.
Okay. And then is the city responsible for any other insurance claim that was involved in the accident?
Our deductible is $1,000, so if there is, we would still just pay the $1,000.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it wouldn't cost us anymore.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Motley?
I just had a quick question. How many personal vehicles are in the police department that officers are taking home? Unmarked cars? Like a personal use car, like the fire chief has one. I'm just curious what the police department...
This would not be a personal vehicle to take home. This is just be for the parking monitor used during their enforcement. And then if anybody sent a training or to a seminar or anything outside the department, instead of using their own vehicle to travel and get reimbursed by mileage, they would use the city vehicle.
I understand, but I was just curious how many cars are officers taking home that aren't marked vehicles, personal vehicles, that the city's paying for?
Well, let's see, off the top of our head, we have this chief of police, the assistant chief of police, the chief of the fire department,
I was just curious about the police, so that's good. I don't need the rest.
Very
Thank you.
good. The chief of police and the assistant chief.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson?
One last question that I have, Sherry, is so we've got approximately 68,000 in our contingency fund. We'll be reducing that by the difference in whatever the vehicle costs. What happens to the contingency fund then if we have anything left over? Could we apply it to can we prepay for anything out of the 2024 budget? Because every 60,000 is 1 percentage point, so it's in my mind on our budget. Can we prepay for anything in 2024 if we receive an invoice in 2023?
You can do that, but my suggestion is it stays in the general fund because we need to see what the other departments have done this year.
Got it.
And what happens if they're dipped or over their budget.
So that comes out of the
That's
contingency
gonna
at the end of the year?
level, yeah.
Okay, and is that a normal practice then for
Yes.
end of year? Okay, okay, thank you, Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Counselor Paulson.
But we did take that special assessment out of there, just to let you know, yeah.
Okay, it has been moved and supported to authorize the purchase of this 2021 Nissan Rogue for the use by the parking monitor and for travel to training and by other departments. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. And speaking of Budget 2024, we're bringing back at the request of the Humane Society a copy of their contract for 2024.
So looking at the contract, which I understand it, we haven't received any reports in all year long. And all of a sudden, we get an end-of-the-year report with all the animals that were serviced compared to all the other departments that other cities that they have contracts with. And you take a look at our contract that we pay them every year, and the contract they get from these other communities. And I think there was a motion made for us to table this until we figured out, what St. Louis County was going to provide and what the other contracts are providing. If you're breaking it down by how many dogs you have based upon how much services you provide, or how much not provided. But we provide a significant stipend for the Humane Society, and we have to be cognizant of the needs to keep this community safe and animals as well. But in our budget, the way it is, I personally, at this point in time, can't support any increase from what the previous budget year. So anyway, any comments here from the council? Councilor Motley.
I feel like the increase, I know we're big time with the budget, but the increase for me personally anyway was, I think it was just a couple $1,000. Sherry, was it over the next 3 years? Or if you have that information available?
Off the top of my head, it was a couple $1,000s, but I don't have the exact. In my budget now that I am working on, I do have it at what they requested, which was $42,330.
And was it increased by $1,000 a year over 3 years or something? Okay. I thought we were waiting on this until we had seen the St. Louis County. That's what I had requested, the county's finalized contract with what they were going to do. And I know we're obviously leading the way on the animals in a significant pace compared to everybody else. But I still guess I would like to see what the county comes through. But
yeah, I think it was put on the agenda today just to review the contract because they provided some additional information. And of course, we certainly can move this over to the budget discussion as well. And depending upon if they have any more information with respect to the county contract, which I didn't see in the other packet.
yeah, and I just want to state to the Mesabi Humane Society, thank you for all you do. And we know you're working very hard with very little monetary funds. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So it looks like this is a 3-year contract, is that right? And do we always do 3-year contracts with them? So this is just normal?
Pam?
Thank you, Mayor. In response to Councilor Motley's question, the contract for 22 and 23 was $40,800. For 24, it's $45,000. And yes, we have done 3-year contracts.
So the $5,000 increase from $40,800 to $45,000, that's every single year for that 3-year contract, correct?
No,
Goes up.
it goes up every year. So it's $45,000 the first year, $46,500 in 25, and $48,000 in 26.
So an increase of $8,000 in the 3-year period. Okay, thank you very much for that, Pam. Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. That's exactly where I was going. It's in our packet under item V or 5, compensation. And it does increase to $48,000 in year 2026. And I just, at this point in the game with our budgetary needs, I wouldn't be comfortable going over what we're currently paying right now. And I would also include that we need to have reporting done, and that needs to be part of the language in the contract if it isn't already. I thought it was, but I don't know. But that needs to be a requirement, just like we do with our lobbyist or any other. You have to have measurements. People service, we require them to do the same thing. So I feel that needs to be worked into the contract. But at this time, I wouldn't support going forward with an additional almost $5,000 for year 20 or budget year 2024 increase, and then thereafter following additionally about looks like 1,500 plus per year. So that's kind of where I'm sitting right now going forward as we bring this forward to our budget discussion. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Paulson. Okay, anything else on, we'll move this over to the budget discussion moving forward. Anything else with respect to this Humane Society contract? Anybody? Councilor Friedlieb?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate and reinforce my appreciation and respect for the mission and the responsibilities assumed by the Mesabi Humane Society. But I think we're way out of line with the amount we're paying compared to the other entities that they service. And I see that we have more cats and dogs that are being attended to than those communities. I understand that. But again, I look at it as, I don't know that it's a municipal responsibility and a taxpayer responsibility, like I said, to take on the responsibility of, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, is it irresponsible pet owners that are the reason for which there's so many stray animals in town? I don't know, you know, and I'm just saying, it's like, from my uneducated knowledge of this whole scene, to me it seems as though the community should be charitable towards supporting that mission and not necessarily the municipality. And I know they have fundraisers and they raise money that way as well, but I think that they could significantly increase that from a charitable standpoint rather than a municipal standpoint. So given the concerns we have with the budget, I don't know in my own heart and head whether we're getting the bang for our buck that we're putting into it from a municipal standpoint. So I'm troubled by the amount that we're putting forward to this. And that's no disrespect towards the people that are doing this job. Like I said, I do honor and respect the mission they're on and the responsibilities they take on, but the costs that we're incurring for this as taxpayers, I find excessive. Thank you.
And thank you. And in response to what you just said, Councilor Friedlieb, and what Councilor Paulson has brought up, historically, we were supposed to get reports from the Humane Society about how many dogs they took in, the reason why they took the dogs, where they were given up by the owner, were they strays, what happened. We've received no statistical data about those things. How many dogs were vaccinated? How many dogs were adopted? You know, it's a non-euthanized thing. And on a regular basis, I mean, we get a one lump sum report, but it needs to be broken down by dog number one was a stray, had to be neutered, had to have the shots, that's how much it cost. Same thing all the way down the line. But to get a blanket number with a number of animals, we need to know how that money is being spent, and so we know, as you indicated, a big bang for our buck moving forward. I read their contract, and so, I mean, it's all about being able to provide the information necessary to continue with the mission. But when we're financially supporting that at a very significant amount of money compared to other communities, we need to know. I think we should have that breakdown. The Humane Society are not here today, promised to provide us that information on a regular basis, but we have yet to get that. So I think that was a little remiss, and we need to make sure that gets accomplished as well. Councilor Motley.
Just for the public's information, we got some information from the Mesabi Humane Society, and they have come here before and talked to us, but roughly it costs them about $500 per animal dropped off. And this year, per the numbers they sent us, it looks like we're up to, if I did the math right, about 200 through the month of October of 2023. So at $500 per animal, 200, you're looking at about $100,000 right there through 10 months through the city of Virginia. That probably, if they're saying the math is right, that would be what it's cost them so far. So we do supply a lot of pets, and we thank you for what you do. But thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, well, $500 an animal, not every animal is $500. We need a breakdown of the expenditures, how many shots, how many licenses did they issue, what revenue was gleaned from any animal license they issued, all those kind of things. So maybe we have some information from our staff attorney, Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you, Mayor. And so as far as the information is concerned, just a couple of items. The contract that's currently in place, my recollection of it, and what's mirrored in the contract that appears here, is that the Humane Society is responsible for maintaining records as it relates to the services that they provide to the city. And more importantly, those records, theoretically are subject to the Data Practices Act because they're produced based on a contract with the municipal body. So all those records should be available if the city wants to request them and review them.
Thank you, Brian, very much. Okay, Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Brian, for that information. I think I would prefer that the city does not have to go through a data practice request to get information that the city should be provided. So I would like to have that language change in the contract requiring monthly reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Okay, this will move to the budget meeting as well as we discuss it further. Pam?
Thank you. Just to let you know that the attachment that was sent out by Britt with the packet on page 8 gives all the information that you're looking for, what was taken in, what was surrendered, what the police dropped off, what was born, quarantined, and everything for the city per animal, dog and cat.
Right, it says that, but it doesn't say what the cost associated with each one is either. They don't have the financial breakdown about that. So knowing how many dogs and cats and then throwing whatever money we have at, is it enough? I don't know. Is it not enough? Is it too much? Those monthly reports should come to us on a regular basis. So that request for the change in the contract as we move forward, before we make that approval and set the fees associated with what we're going to allocate for that, should all be inclusive in that in that discussion next week. So thank you for that, Pam. Anything else from the council with respect to the Humane Society contract as we move that for the budget meeting? Okay, thank you. Next item.
Thank you. The next item is the review proposed increase to permitting fees, and I will turn this over to Jenny Bourbonnais.
Jenny?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, so as part of the budget discussions, we are looking at our fee schedule and maybe some adjustments that could be made there. And we drafted for your review some increases. Just to note, as was discussed, previously, the fees have not been increased since the city adopted the state building code, which is in 1988. So I feel like our services are not in line with the fees as they were drafted originally 35 years ago. So it's for your consideration, looking through these fees on proposed increases.
Thank you, Jenny. Under these are the proposed recommendation of the fee increases.
Yes, Mayor. There's, in the spreadsheet, there's the current base fee, and then there is proposed fee increase and proposed plan review fees. I don't know that I can get into the real weeds of what goes into all of those, but our building official, Christina Nicola, is here if you have questions on how those fees are more detailed calculated, but we do have some base fee increases in here.
Thank you. And as we move forward with these fee increases and the council considering whether to approve these fee increases, I think are important that we do. They're well overdue based on 1988 numbers that, of course, as we determine what our fee schedule is going to be, obviously all those individuals that are affected by that fee increase, the public will certainly be notified of those fee increases and how moving forward with that. So thank you for putting that spreadsheet together. I know it took some staff time in which to do so, but I think it was well presented. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you very much for putting this together. It's very detailed. I want to ask a question. When we're talking about commercial building permits, and it lists the dollar value of the cost of the construction, and then it exponentially increases based on dollar value. My question is, that seems to almost penalize those that want to, say, upgrade to like more expensive carpeting or more expensive tile or better roof construction instead of going to the like an overall square foot. You know what I mean? Like if it almost feels like it's penalizing if you're increasing your costs of like why would I want to then install better carpeting, or why would I want to increase, whatever 2x6s, 2x4s, whatever. I mean, I suppose there's code, you have to stay to code, but I'm wondering if that could be, so like on the bottom you have deck, the increase is X amount, now we're going to, what was it, $50. You've got whatever the permitting, and then you have the increase. So it's not based on the cost of the fencing material or not the cost of the decking material. So in order to entice people to come here and remodel and do rehab in our commercial buildings, I'm wondering if that should be relooked at based on square footage and not on actual project cost or totals. You've got electrical, you might want to do something upgrading your electrical, but if you go over a threshold, say you want to keep it at 15,000, but you really want to redo your whole building, I'm just wondering, does that penalize? It seems to appear to penalize those that want to actually do a lot more improvements. So I don't know if that could be relooked at and maybe based on square footage. The fees, whatever the fees are, the fees need to be, but instead of having it on a financial scale of what you're improving to the property, if you could maybe base it based on square footage. I don't know what other people feel like, but just as I've seen projects coming through, even on the VITA side, I would rather be incentivizing people to upgrade instead of penalizing them because they want to do better upgrades. That would be my only question or suggestion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. I know, Jenny, you've done the research with respect to how permits fees are established in other communities as well. Move forward, and this seems to be the normal course of a process. It also it's inclusive of the staff time with respect to inspecting those things and issuing the permits. And so, could you comment on that, please?
Sure, I can. Thank you, Mayor. I can comment to the best of my ability, at least.
Yes, thank you.
So yes, comparatively to other communities, we're in line with how they're calculated. It's a little difficult to compare directly to each individual community because some do enforce only zoning and issue zoning permits, and some enforce building code like we do. So there's not always like an apples to apples type comparison on the base fee and the inspection fees. Because, for example, if you're just issuing a zoning type permit, there may not be an inspection associated with that. So those fees are calculated a little bit differently and broken out a little differently.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else with respect to the proposed increase in permit fees? I think maybe we could take a look at that based on a suggestion made by Councilor Paulson as we move this to the budget discussion about, when we're going to pull the trigger on looking to approve some type of increase and how that's structured. So if you could have that available for us next week, would that be possible?
We can.
Just some information.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we can accomplish that, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And we would, just as a reminder too, need to have a public hearing on any fee increase. So it's not, this is just for discussion at this point to move forward if we're looking at that. So.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for that, Jenny. Appreciate that clarification. Okay, next item, please.
Right.
I'm sorry, Councilor Friedlieb.
And it's just for the discussion, because I do appreciate what you're doing and what needs to be done, since we haven't even addressed it since 1988, so on and so forth. But, in respect to Jerry coming up here, some of the things that we are required to be putting in place and following standards and regulations, those are all necessary, obviously. But at the same time, there's it's becoming almost disincentivizing to people to want to put in new windows or put on a new deck or put up a new fence or whatever, because now I'm going to have to pay hundreds of dollars to get a new survey done on a fence that's been sitting there since 1947 or whatever. I mean, that's kind of what we're hearing from people in the community, is that we are in dire, dire need in this community for remodeling, reconditioning, rehabbing. And you have people that own 50 some odd buildings in town who are now feeling really burdened by, the registration fees now that weren't in place in the past that they have to pay for, additional costs now to meet these regulations and these expectations and these standards. And so I'm torn. I mean, I need to be supportive of what we need to do, that we need to enforce for public safety for sure. But at the same time, there is a perception out there right now that the city is becoming kind of regulatorily heavy-handed in a sense, and somewhat disincentivizing people from making improvements because of the costs they incur, which are now going to continue to go up. And then the other add to that is when the county comes in and they reassess for taxes, and if you've made improvements, all of a sudden all your property is worth more and they can tax you more. So what do you get out of it? It's like improving things in town are costing you money, not. So anyhow, I mean, there is frustration out there, as we heard from one contractor who was simply going about a process of repairing and replacing something that had been sitting there for decades and had to have it shut down because certain regulations and components of the ordinance say you need to do it this way, when in fact, you really don't, but you do. If that's what you know what I mean? That's the frustration. People that are involved in these kinds of projects know what needs to be done, and it seems as though these regulations and these ordinances continue to put obstacles in their way rather than creating pathways for them to get that accomplished. So, in any event, it's just a little vent session, so thanks for listening.
Thank you, Councilor Freely. And I know I'll get off on a tangent, but still, I always want to just reiterate what you just said. I mean, we have rules and regulations that are in place. We have the permits that are required. All those things are in our zoning ordinance, all those kinds of things, and our staff and the planning and zoning, they're all just following the rules moving forward. But I agree, this particular example, it irks me because you have a fence that's been there for a long time. There is no survey. So here's this argument. You have the fence that's sitting there, no matter what it is. I think we addressed it with another fence down on 6th Avenue before that, and we denied, we overrode the planning and zoning, which we rarely ever do, so they could continue to put up the existing fence in the existing area. Same thing is held here for this one. It's a 3-foot fence. It's been existing for I don't know how long. Yes, it's right on the property line, or it could be on city property.
On city property.
Right, it's on city property. Right, so but it's been there for how many years? right?
A very different fence has been there for how many years? This is a much more substantial, dangerous to our staff fence.
I would like to finish. I understand, and that's where I'm going. So it's not simply replacing an existing fence with the fence that you already had, okay? If that was the case, as Christina had pointed out to the homeowner, that if they wanted to fix their fence, they could certainly replace a board or two or three or four over a period of time, repaint it, and that fence would stay existing. But because it's a new construction, and what you say, Britt, Zach, that was the point I was trying to get to. You were more succinct about it than I was getting there. But so there's a difference in that regard, how we move forward with that. So, the fees are what they are. And so the example is coming with when say we're disincentivizing. I think you had indicated that, Councilor Freely, and so did you, Councilor Paulson, and I agree. There may be some disincentivizing there. But when we're going to be moving forward with the new rental code ordinance, we're doing the same thing for the landlords too. I mean, those fee schedules, in my opinion, and we'll talk about later, are exorbitant, in my opinion. But it's what been proposed and been approved, and we're going to continue to move forward to that. So there are a lot of burdens that are put on the public, whether they're making new contracts, whether they're renting property. The cost of doing business have risen significantly, and all the added fees with taxes and all things. I get the frustration that the people have. We have an obligation to try to, maintain to a relative certain degree the safety, health, and security of our community. How we do that is the decisions we make here as a council. So sometimes they're tough. Please. Yes, Assistant Chief Nicola, please come forward. Thank you, Chief.
Similar but different.
Okay.
So I have a suggestion for the council and mayor. I deal with ordinances. I don't deal with people coming in for permits and stuff like that, other than permit to purchase for guns, which is completely different. But on the ordinance side of things, and I know quite often you guys as a governing body get cornered by people wanting answers right now. Whenever I send out an email to you guys, what I always say, if a citizen has a question, send them my way. Our ordinance book is 4 inches thick. Who is going to know everything in that ordinance book? I sure don't. Quite often when I'm called by a citizen trying to find out what the ordinance is, I have to tell them, you know what? It's been a while since I visited that one. Let me look it up and get back to you. So please don't feel like you have to give a citizen an answer, because I think that's where, in Mr. Williams' case, some of his frustration comes in. He's getting different answers from different people. And that does cause a lot of animosity. And all of a sudden, why doesn't the city have their stuff together? So don't feel like you have to give them answers. Send them to the right people that can find them the answers and point them in the right direction. And that would hopefully cut down on a lot of these issues that come up. That's just my suggestion, because again, I deal with the ordinance side of things all too often, but I think it also relates to a lot of the permitting side of things and some of the other issues that come up. Send them to those folks that can get them the proper answers.
And in the example that you just gave, that was done, but the individual didn't follow through. Thank you, Chief. I agree. Thank you. Okay, well, before we go to the next item, we should take a 5-minute break here. Before we do, Councilor Motley.
So Jenny, are you looking for a motion to potentially, this is just discussion? Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Motley. Okay, can we just take 5 minutes? I think we should. And be cognizant of those who are working today, but let's take a few minutes. Thank you. Okay, everybody ready? We'll resume our city council meeting after a short break. Thank you. Britt, next item on the agenda, please.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 8C, and review solid waste fees. As we discussed at our last meeting, we had found when we were doing the garbage rate discussion, Chris Marfiotti from the Public Works Department, Public Utilities staff, and myself have been looking at this for a good long time, at least a year. And we figured out that we were completely missing a fee because the county charges us $385,000 per year for a county solid waste fee. So we had talked with the council last time that we were going to suggest that for commercial garbage, we find a dollar amount that we can bill each commercial customer per month, add that on to the bills, and then rename the existing county garbage fee on the utility bills to the county tipping fee. So what would happen is there's supposed to be 4 charges on every bill, residential and commercial. Right now, there's only 3. And so the city's been subsidizing that county fee, that $385,000 for years. So we need to start working on getting that back to us. So when we had that discussion, I explained that the county charges the city based on estimated market value of a property. The council asked me to find out what it would be if we just did a flat fee per business, and that would be $16.26 per business per month. And I think that, this is just my personal opinion, I think that would be a good start to get us back into the black on the solid waste fund. We know we've been historically negative in that, and this is more than likely why. We've been subsidizing this with city funds for years.
Hey, well, I'm ready to move this forward to the council meeting, so we're looking for
That's
council
commercial,
action.
and then residential.
Yeah.
We've changed residential twice since I've been here since 2016. So I suggest that for residential, what we do is, again, there should be 4 fees and not 3. Right now, there's only 3. I think we take that city garbage fee and break out the county solid waste fee, which is $708 per month, and then make the city garbage fee $922 per month, because we're essentially paying it already anyway out of these funds. But just to make it clearer for everybody, so you're a business, you're a residential, you can see 4 fees, 4 fees. Everybody understands what you're paying for.
Yes, thank you, Britt. Councilor Paulson.
I would move that forward.
Councilor Paulson moves to move that forward to the council meeting for final discussion and approval. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for all your hard work on that, Britt. I know it took a little bit of while to figure that out, and that the taxpayer is going to be clearly defined in their bill what we're paying for. Thank you.
And thank you to Chris from Public Works and to Cassie and Nancy at Utilities too for helping us work on this too. Appreciate it. Item number D was the request for approval to negotiate a franchise agreement with Mediacom LLC. As you will see in your packet, the franchise expires this year, and we want to negotiate a new one.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Motley. Is there support?
I'll support for discussion.
Support by Councilor Paulson for further discussion. This is a long time coming. Further discussion, Councilor Paulson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I have, the Cable Commission has kind of been alluding that this needs to be reviewed, I think, for the last year or so. So I'm really glad that we're going to be reviewing it, or staff will be reviewing it. I just want to say, too, I don't know that it would be, I think the length of years, what was this one, 10? I think from the Cable Commission's perspective, the length of the years was where they were kind of wanting to maybe pull that back a little bit based on all the different changes that are currently happening with not only public access but cable in general. And so I think one of those things, or that was one of the issues. And then second of all, I didn't see, now this might be me, I didn't see an exclusivity. I think it's non-exclusive in this current contract. And I think it would be a benefit to the city of Virginia to continue non-exclusivity with Mediacom in the event that CTC wants to come forward, or any other cable group, that the city would not be held to a monopoly by only one company here. And there was a requirement from what I can remember, I haven't read this since you put it in the packet. This is from a while back, but I felt like one of the requirements was that they had to maintain a local office here, open and available to the public. And I don't know if that is currently the case where MediaCom, if they are now back open, if they now have a manager here or not. It was closed for some time. So that was one of the parameters in this contract. But just the non-exclusivity in the event, Brian, that, or Brett, that we do have another entity that may come forward and want to provide some services and maybe more competitive rates for those residents in Virginia. Because MediaCom has gone up at least triple in the last 3 years. So I just wanted to add that as you go into those negotiations. And if I hear any more feedback from the Cable Commission, I will email both of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, in addition to that, I think there's some significant language adjustments I think that had to be made. I'll just give you 2 suggestions moving forward. There may be others. I would maybe provide you with a list. First and foremost, that they have been non-responsive to any communication we've had. So something in the contract to say you must respond to us with a certain period of time. You must meet and confer with us, at a reasonable time, request, however that's going to be worded, and that the fact that during this negotiation process, we have a line that goes to City Hall here. They refuse to fix it, refuse to upgrade it. There's been zero communication or response from MediaCom, and so that has to be taken care of. So they have to be more communicative about that. They have to upgrade our access to the general public, and by not running that line, I think that's irresponsible in my opinion. I don't know why they won't do it, because there has been no response from them. So I think there has to be some kind of mechanism in place where they will meet and confer, and within a certain period of time, whatever it is. And if they refuse to do so, then maybe they trigger some kind of a penalty of some sort. I don't know how that would work, but I would leave it up to the legal authority in which to take a look at what our options are. So that, and I may have some others as well. So thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. Item 9. I'm sorry. Oh, motion. Looking for a motion. Do we have? We have a motion and a second, and the 70-year-old one guy just remembered that. So is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 9 is approve the resolution to purchase a 2024 Chevrolet 1-ton regular cab pro package pickup truck for Public Works, and this is on our equipment bond.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to approve by Councilor Freely. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 10 is approve the Virginia Police Department to assist the Hibbing Police Department with the first annual Iron Range Polar Plunge on Saturday, March 16th, 2024 at Cary Lake in Hibbing.
Move to approve by Councilor Freely. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Beyondich. Further discussion? I'm not jumping, but I'll contribute. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Next item is review the city financial reports for.
Okay, thank you. Sherry, do you have anything that you want to disseminate to us with respect to this finance report?
No, this is for October. So if you has any questions?
Okay, very good. Councilor Beyondich?
Thank you. When I was looking through, is the golf course restaurant, are they still paying us, or are they done, or what is happening up there?
Ryan? Can we talk about?
I will. I can say I don't anticipate we'll receive additional rent from them.
No.
Under the current lease.
Under the current lease. Councilor Beyondich?
What was the end date of that current lease?
Yeah, we're currently in a transition period.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Beyondich. Thank you. Okay. Any other, with respect to the financial reports? Sure, I have a series of questions here. I don't know where I would start. No, I don't have any. Next item, please.
I was all ready.
Just a little levity.
The final item on the agenda that is on the agenda is contract negotiations with AFSCME, and this portion of the meeting may be closed unless there's something else that the council wants to discuss before we go into closed session.
No. Do you have, is it your request that we move into closed session? Okay, thank you. Looking for a motion to move to closed session.
I'll make them, sorry.
Motion by Councilor Beyondich and then seconded by Councilor Motley to move into closed session. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Would ask everybody in the audience and staff who are not involved in this to please vacate the city council chambers at this point in time so we can discuss our labor negotiations with AFSCME. Thank you.